Good afternoon, everyone. Today, you have joined my Leveraging Up program. It is your voice, your story, and your impact. And today, I am excited. Why? Because I have someone here that's going to talk about power shift, the power shift. I'm excited because I don't know anything about it. But when someone tells me power shift, I'm like, yep, I'm all that. Come on down. Come on down. What I'd like to do is just introduce Maggie, and please help me with your last name.
My last name is Bio.
Maggie Boillot, the power shift. Maggie, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself? What's the passion that drives you and inspires you to actually to have actually created that power shift?
Yeah, the action and the driving behind it is that I was in a 10-year long toxic relationship. And when I say toxic, it was toxic in all levels. I had literally lost my entire identity. My whole being was attached to this person, his children, our business. And I pretty much didn't know who Maggie was. And I was living life for everyone else but myself. And I caught myself really truly sitting with myself and trying to understand why I was allowing these types of behaviors, this type of person to do these types of things in my life. And I realized that I had no self-awareness. I had no self-respect. I was just literally merely living. And I would tell myself, this is as good as it gets. And it is what it is, because it was the choice that I made to find and stick and stay with this person. And so through that, I decided that I needed to become more aware of myself. I needed to become aware of what I wanted. And I wanted to lead through passion, purpose, and fulfillment. And that is why I started the Power Shift, is because if in your life you don't make the power shift, God, universe, divine, whatever it is you believe in, will throw things at you for you to have to make a power shift. So it's a lot easier when you make your own power shift. And for me, I had to walk away from an entire life I had built for a decade with a backpack and a dream on my heart. And I want to help other people understand that starting over is not the end. It's actually the new beginning.
Whoa, that is power in itself, Maggie. My goodness. How did you get to that point when you just said, you know what, it's done, I'm done, backpack on and walk out the door?
I feel like a lot of people ask me this question, and it's not a light turn on, turn off. It's not something that just happens overnight. It is a process. It is a process that you have to go through, and it becomes something that has to come from within. So I talk all about, like, the power is within you to decide and to understand. And for me, I was so tired of waking up tired. I was so tired of living this life that just was unfulfilling. It had no satisfaction. I was working and I was living, and in all reality, it was a fake life that I was creating. And so for me, I had to just go inward and really tell myself that I was worthy and deserving and more than enough to create a new life. So that's what I like to talk about, is you have to rewrite your story. But before you can rewrite your story, you have to release what no longer serves you. You have to be able to say to yourself that you can reclaim trust, strength, and courage, because if you don't have those things, because most oftentimes they're stripped away in these relationships and these things and experiences in our life, but you have to understand, and that's where I said, I don't have them, but I'm going to pack my backpack with those things. I'm going to take that first courageous step and see what is out there for me.
Well, that word brave and courageous comes to my mind. In that moment when you decided to walk out of the house, Maggie, what did it feel like? And what did you do to get you out of where you had just left? I mean, We don't just walk out the door. There's things that happen. What process did you go through that really makes that difference in who you are and what you're offering today?
Yeah, I think it honestly, the imperfect bravery is the thing that I always have to say is that you're never going to know what's next. And in your life, it's always unknown. But most oftentimes we stay stuck in the unknown and the familiar chaos. And we stay there because it's normal, or we stay there because it's comfortable. Most oftentimes we feel like it's just I'm going to stay here because it's comfortable. Well, hey, how chaotic is it? So for me, I had gotten to the point where it was like, you can either stay here for the rest of your life and you can question, you can have fear, you can have all those things that are never going to disappear, by the way. But if you don't embrace them and just say to yourself, like, I can stay here in this unfamiliar, unknown place of chaos because nobody knows what's going to happen next. Or you can take and just say to yourself, I'm going to try a different experience. I'm going to try a different aspect. I'm going to just try. I always talk about it as like clothing. If your shirt doesn't fit right, do you leave it on? No, most oftentimes you take it off. So you can do that with your life. You can do that with any experience. As long as you have the awareness and the willingness to make an alignment shift, you can release and you can have a new experience. And that's what I love to talk about is that was literally aware spelled out in just 2 simple seconds. But that's literally the process of being able to walk and reclaim your life.
Okay, you had me at process, girl. Process. Because to do what you did, you had to find a process and a system that worked for you. Yes. And is that the type of system that you bring to the table when you talk about the power shift?
Yes, it is a process. And I love to have, it's actually 3 steps, because if you aren't aware of what's happening in your life, you're not going to be living alive. And then you also are not going to be in your own power. So I talk all about it. We don't change anything unless we're aware of it. So if you're not aware, you can't really truly be living. And then if you're not really living, you're not living in your true authentic power. And I think that's when I always talk about that. The process is really self-discovery, self-awareness, finding what the heck lights you up and makes you want to be alive and wake up every single day. And then when you can have that alignment shift with yourself, you're in your power. And that's when the power shift happens. It doesn't just click. It doesn't just walk in front of you. But you have to just build those 3 words as well, the trust, the courage, and the strength. But it all just comes from being aware and wanting to live a life that actually lights your soul on fire.
Wow. Light your soul on fire. Being aware. Those things sound so simple, and yet it's not, is it? When we get to that point, what gave you the courage to walk and know that it was going to be okay?
Yeah, I was going to interrupt you and say it's simple. I always like to kind of say like, people overcomplicate everything. We tend to want to know the outcomes. We tend to want to know like, I know I'm in this place right now and I feel all these feelings and I'm so beat up, I'm so tired, and we stay there. But it really does come from a simple process, again, where it's just, what does life feel like? Because when you can sit with yourself and you have had more bad days than you're having good days, then that's the feedback. And I always talk about that. We all have so many thoughts each and every day. And most oftentimes they just fade into the background. But there's some that are really life-changing ones where you have to understand that they're going to start presenting themselves. And that's when I talk about the power shift. You can either have the power shift for yourself, or you're going to have a setback, a challenge, or a failure, or some sort of catastrophic incident in your life that's going to make you make the power shift. So instead of having those choices, you need to just start walking yourself through, how do I feel? Why do I feel these feelings? What do I want more? What do I want different? And then the courageous step, it almost just kind of starts to present itself. And so for me, it was, I literally just had to say, I can have this or I can have that. And that was unknown and it didn't have any sort of substance to it. But that's where the beauty is. That's where the magic is, because you get to start over, recreate, and step into that life that you truly deserve and desire. Because I say that all the time, what you desire, you deserve.
Oh, I had a big there before I pressed that button. That is so fascinating for me, Maggie, because, you know, it is amazing how much women will put up for this, right? And I think women, we have a tolerance for pain. And sometimes I say this because I'm pointing my finger to myself, okay? The pain and stupidity, right? But at the same time, like you said, we have that intuition as women and the feeling we know we should not be, or we should on ourselves, right? And we need to step out. And yet some of us choose not to, yes. And that too is a choice. That too is a choice. If you could look in the eyes of look in the eyes into the camera here, and I really reach out to the listeners and the viewers, you know, if you could talk directly to the person that you think really could use your services, what would you say to them and who would they be?
Yeah, it's the simple fact of what are you allowing in your life? And why are you allowing it? Because like you said, most oftentimes we'll suffer in silence. We'll suffer in the, like I already mentioned, the is as good as it gets. You know, a lot of times you think, well, what else could be? Well, if you don't try, you'll never know. And so a lot of times I feel like the person that is listening to this, when you have that thing deep down inside of you, some people have it in their head. I actually just talked about this. Some people have it in their head, some people have it in their heart, and some people have it in their gut. And I want to say the head is usually the overthinking part. So stop overthinking things and lead from what is right here in that heart and in through your gut. Because us as women, we truly have this, like, the gut instinct, the part of you that says, this is not what is right for you. And so I love to work with people to just say, sit in silence. It's the loudest noise you need to hear. It also is the clearest noise that you need to hear. And it's the feedback that you've been looking for. And back to the feedback, it's like if your feedback sounds like that AM radio and you're just like, why? It's all static. I don't know. I can't make sense of it. That's when you need to understand it's time to make the power shift. And it's your choice to realign with actually what makes your radio station that pump up girl song, where you can walk into the confidence and you can step into your worth and you can own your power.
Step into the music. Yes. You know, for me, listening to you, Maggie, I tell you, I'm going to tell the listeners, I hope you leaned in, everyone, because the power shift for Maggie was real. And today, she does have systems and structures that, for those of you who need them, you'll find them. And so, Maggie, what are some of those last words that you'd like to tell our listeners? And I also want you to tell them how they can actually get a hold of you. And remember, we're going to also post the information that Maggie has sent. Maggie will be sharing, so that, don't worry, you're going to be able to get in touch with her.
Yeah, well, first and foremost, thank you so much, because this has just been absolutely amazing. And I love sharing exactly what I did to make the power shift. And I think the last few words that I always like to leave anybody with is that really, truly, you are worthy, you are deserving, and you are more than enough to live a life that makes you passionate, that makes you have purpose, and gives you that fulfillment that you've always been looking for, because it's all inside of you, but you have to be the one that says, I desire this and I deserve it. And so that's really what I would leave you with, is just really, truly, what is on your heart? What is on your what is in that space that makes you say, man, I really want that, because what it is what you desire is what you deserve. And so you can find me. I am on Instagram at the power, or excuse me, I always say that. It's not the power, it's just power within her.inc. And then also my website is powerwithinherinc.com. So really, if you find anything on the power within, you will be able to find me. And I just love connecting with each and every person, and just hearing everybody's story, because we all have a story. It's uniquely ours, but there's so many similarities that we can all make an impact and we can change our lives together.
What I deserve, what I desire, I deserve. Those are the words that are going to resonate with me. And so I'm going to say thank you so much, Maggie. I'd like to continue this conversation on another podcast if you're open to that, because I really do believe that listeners out there need to hear that story. Hear that story so they can again find their voice, and then they can then share their story, and then of course ripple effect out to the world so that they can make a bigger impact. So glad that you stopped by to share your story, Maggie. And stay tuned, guys. We'll have a part 2 to this, because I know this is a topic that is near and dear, especially because I have so many women out there in the world. So for now, we're going to say goodbye. Any last words, Maggie?
No, just go after your dreams. Do what you want to do. And like I said, ignite your own power and step into it. So thank you so much for having me.
Boom. Have a good one.